Hello, hello. Testing, testing. All right, we are good on YouTube. Let us get on to Instagram. All right, hopefully we got good connection. Welcome, welcome, Clutter-Free family, to the Clarity Hotline. Okay, so we've got a couple questions we're answering today, but let's come into the space together. And why am I? I'm not. I'm not. I'm pretty. I'm okay lit on Instagram and kind of dark on YouTube. So, can you see me? All right. So, okay. How are we feeling? How are we feeling? I will tell you this, it's very hot where I am. It's like a humid heat. And I was just hearing somebody at the park. I just came from the park, so I have like my little lines from um, the hat that I was wearing. Anyway, so and I was here overhearing another mom talk about how she's moving to North Carolina and she's like, "Oh, it's going to be so hot. It's going to be like gross hot." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. This is pretty bad right now." But she's going to be in for it. They move in July, so that's like the hottest month. Well, August is actually I think the hottest month of the year in the States. But July is pretty rough too. Anyway, hopefully everybody's having some, I don't know, some plans for vacations. It's not quite summer yet. 10 more days till summer officially begins. But I know a lot of us moms, especially parents whose kids are out of school now, it feels like summer and you're already kind of feeling the burn of fitting it all in, right? All the trips, all the memories, all the fun. I am um, I've got a couple friends going to Spain. Or actually, three people are going either in Spain or going to Spain within the next 6 weeks. So they're either coming somewhere in there or they're staying the full length of time. And that sounds dreamy. I would love to go to Spain, go back to Spain because it's been a while since I've been to Spain. But I actually want to go like somewhere tropical and jungly like Costa Rica, and I want to take the boys. So that's also been brewing in me. I'm like, when would I go there? How can we start to put that in motion and make that happen? I think if we don't plan our vacations, if we're not like, you know, actively planning our vacation and setting it up really months in advance, if you think about it, then it just doesn't happen, right? Life happens and it just keeps going. And before you know it, it's already August and you're back to school and you're like, oh, we didn't do anything. Doesn't mean it's too late. Like I said, summer hasn't even started officially. So you got time. I don't know. I don't know yet what we're going to be doing. Probably nothing too crazy this summer, but I would like to sprinkle some trips throughout the rest of this year, even especially as it cools down everywhere. um, Even like in the September, October months, the kids have a break in October, so we can fit something in there. Yeah, these new year-round schedules are so different than when I was in school. Um, I don't know how it's going to be with all these breaks. I mean, I got a taste of it when my oldest was in actual kinder and not homeschooled. We had a taste of the winter break and the spring break being 2 weeks. Or no, they weren't even 2 weeks. They were just 1 week. But next year we're going to have 2 weeks in fall, 2 weeks in winter, and then 2 weeks in spring, and then only 6 weeks of a summer. Anybody else not sure how to handle that? I think the kids like it. I was talking to my niece and she was saying how she did like that year-round schedule when she had it. She's in high school, so it's different. But she had it all through elementary and middle school, that year-round schedule, and she liked it because it felt like you got more time off in her case. Um, Whereas for me, I'm thinking, oh, feels like such a little bit. I remember long summers to the point where you had such a long summer that it's like, man, I didn't see some of my friends. Some of us met up during summer, but you didn't see so much of your classmates, like your class, till the next year, or till the next school year started, and it's like it was 3 months of not seeing each other, and it was like, whoa, you changed. Tell me everything. What's going on? How have you been? Where'd you go? What trips did you go on? Ooh, Lake Tahoe. That reminds me, Lake Tahoe was a big one as a kid for me and my family. And I would go with my cousin. Well, my cousin, especially my girl cousin, and then a boy cousin of mine would come with us. We're all the same age or around the same age. And we would always go on our trips together. And so that was really, really fun. And I remember those are like some of my greatest core memories was traveling with them. Really, really fun, really good times. Um, yeah. Anyway, we want to give that to our kids too, those kinds of memories. And so that's what I'm building off of, right? Kind of my awareness around what was truly memorable and important and life forming for me as part of that travel. And it really did pretty much breed my love for travel thereafter. So my mom was really good about making sure we went on trips and scheduling that stuff in. And so we traveled uh, domestically as a kid. We traveled domestically quite a bit. And then once I was in college, it was goodbye, America. Let's see other parts of the world. Let's go everywhere and anywhere. And I definitely did. Okay, so let's ground down, come in. I just wanted to give some people time to come in and say hello and be here with me. Take a big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. I will breathe out through the mouth just because I've been talking. And then in through the nose, out through the mouth, or out through the nose. Inhale for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 6. In and out. And then when you can, just close your mouth and start to do that cycle in through the nostrils. And you'll feel that that's a different breath and a different calm and a different presence. And if need be, close your eyes and really center in on what that grounding breath is doing for you and your awareness, and you tapping into this present moment right now where clarity lives. And we'll get into it. We'll get into our questions. Thanks for being here. Okay, so hopefully we've got a good connection because when I was logging on, there was an issue with one of my devices here. So hopefully we've got a good, steady connection. Let me pull my notes. Okay, so we've got a question from Jen, and then we've got, I think we're just going to really answer Jen's question. I personally was thinking about something I pretty much think about this all the time. Marketing. I'm a marketing girl. And ever since I could remember, when you're little, you have the memories of what you're going to do when you grow up, like the things that trigger, like, oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Well, I would watch ads and be really into it. I still am. I'll watch commercials, and I watch them for the wit behind it, the intelligence, the thought that goes into it, the creativity. I love funny commercials. I love touching commercials, moving commercials. Those are some of my favorites. But anyway, when I was a little girl, I remember watching TV and seeing commercials and thinking, I want to do that. I want to make ads. And I really did follow that all the way through into college, marketing major, then into my master's degree, marketing, in my career, marketing. I was a marketing coach for a long, long time. I bring marketing into my coaching still today, my business coaching. For any client who works with me, we definitely drill in on like the best brand, the best positioning, building the best offer for you, right? And your goals and what you want to do. And so anyway, you kind of know like, oh, that's what I've always wanted to do, something creative, but then still there was kind of this intellectual aspect, right? It's not just all creativity and art direction. There's copywriting, and there's bringing somebody to a sell, moving them into action, right? By what you say and how you say it, the delivery, the promise. That's all marketing. And it's just fascinating to me. It's always fascinating when I see a really good ad. And it could be a poster, it could be a TV spot, it could be, I mean, really anything. Product placement, even though that's a little cheesy to me, product placement. That when it's obvious, I'm just like, that was lame. But it happens a lot, especially on reality TV and game shows. But anyway, this kind of draws the question of the moment right now that Jen wrote in and asked, what kind of business should I build as a mom? This is not unlike a question that I get asked a lot in some way, shape, or form. And I probably have answered this type of question I don't think it was written this exact way. So Jen wants to ask, what kind of business should I build as a mom? I've got some heavy thoughts around that. So I'm glad you asked. Thanks for asking. But I know I've answered this question not only in my client, one-on-ones, but my like in a clarity hotline or on a YouTube video. I'm pretty sure I've answered some version of this, but I could give it a new spin today, because when we think about the kind of business, well, actually, let's backtrack. When we think about the kind of life that we live as mothers, so Jen's a mom, she's asking, what kind of business do I build as a mom? I think it's probably a little overwhelming to think, can I build a business as a mom? Like what time do I have to give? And especially if you've got littles at home or infants like this, it's you've got to manage your time really well and your self-care. And it doesn't always feel like you have a lot of time for your business. So asking this kind of question really does need to be tailored. The answer needs to be tailored around your season of motherhood. And so I'll always say that you can always start a business at any phase in life. At any phase in life, there's just there's a right and a wrong way for you in this season of life. There's a right and a wrong way to start your business as a mom of littles. There's a right and a wrong way to start a business as a mom in middle school, high school, and beyond, like when your kids are those ages, because as you'll notice, they get older, they get more self-sufficient, they go to work themselves, right, in their classrooms, on their projects, in their school, whatever extracurriculars, that kind of thing. And as their agenda builds and more friend outings and things like that, then you start to be able to add more work in on your schedule, on your agenda. And so I think you really want to look at that. And a business built without looking at that is going to stress you out and burn you out. Building a business, one, given the season of motherhood, and two, building it in a way that where the business model helps you live the life you want to live. Not only does it support you in the time you do have to do the job, to do the work, right? To take the client calls, to attend the meetings or attend the networking events or whatever, right? You need to build your support. Last week on the Clarity Hotline, we talked about scaffolding, right? The scaffolding of support. The things that once you know what you need, you can start to build the scaffolding of support, the people and the products and the tech and the tools that you need to do the work, right? And so you really want to kind of employ and deploy this system that helps you do the work that you want to do, especially if you're doing deep work, like you're an author, you're a content creator, you're a speaker, you're a coach. And you have to do the deep work of going within and brewing something up, creating something from nothing, because it's your intellectual property, right? In those venues. It's your intellectual property that you're putting into the courses that you're building, your digital courses, your in-person courses, into your speeches, into your books. That's you coming up with the words to say, right? The words to use, the concepts, the phrases, the terminology. That's coming from you, right? So you're building something out of nothing. So if that's something that you want to do, and you've always saw yourself doing that, then obviously you build in time to do the deep work. It's not always easy when you've got toddlers running around or the minute naps end and it's a full day of just kids run amok all day. Then the deep work starts to have to either be first thing in the morning or at night, or you build in, some type of babysitter into the mix so that you can check out, take client calls, do the deep work. So this is what you want to think about, the support that's in place, and the support that's one in place already as you start to get going, and then as you got going, you're thinking, okay, what else can I be adding in? I like to look at this from, so if I was to manifest the perfect business, and I clearly am always doing that, I believe I've always manifested a perfect business for me given where I am in life. When I was traveling through Brazil, I had a portable business. I worked from my laptop. I was a marketing coach, and a spiritual coach, and from there, I had a blog. I had a podcast. I spoke on stages, retreats. I was flown across the nation to speak at retreats and be part of that. So it's like things have happened that really lent themselves to like the business that I was building. And I was calling in these experiences because I had clarity around what I wanted, the life I wanted to live. And as a mom, we get to step back and think about, well, what's the life I want to live as a mom? How do I want to, you know, how do I want to, one, operate in my business? How do I want to serve in the world? And then how do I want to show up as mom? And you really want to think about that. All of those have to factor in together. They have to like be woven together. The interplay of them, right, has to be woven together and thought about as working together to create this business and life that you love. I look at it from, so if I'm manifesting the perfect business, which, like I said, I'm doing now that I'm a mom and it's a little bit different, and I'm seeing myself in my mind's eye how I want to be with my son homeschooled. One son is homeschooled. One son's in preschool part time, and then he's gonna start TK in the fall. And so I'm kind of like looking at, okay, what are my systems? How is all this going to work? What are the days of the week that I could work? What are the days of the week I don't want to work? Um, and how can I create the ultimate flexibility in all of that? So, as rigid as that might feel, it's not going to be without their sick days, right? Or my sick days, or it's not going to be without, a field trip that I want to join, I want to be part of. All of those things are going to come up, right? And it'll be for one kid and not the other, kind of a thing. And so what do I do? And then with field trips, though, you have some advance notice, so you can always adjust your work schedule and move some clients around if you have some calls on the days that that's happening. But or you just don't go, right? Or you just don't go to the field trip and chaperone. You kind of have to say, well, can't do that. And so this is where another thing comes into play. What are your no's and your yeses in this season of life? My no's right now are a lot of social outings. I have to keep my calendar light and open in some respect, because I want to be available for obviously homeschooling my son, and just available for my kids who are really young right now. And that's going to look different, right, in a couple years when they're 7 and 8. It's going to look different when they're 13 and 14. It's going to look different than when they're 18 and 19. It's going to look way different when they're 21 and older, and possibly wanting to move out, or if they didn't during college years. Let's say they come back home. What's that going to look like after college? And I didn't move back home after college. I kept going. Um, I'm doing my own thing. And so anyway, I think all that I think all of that takes some plotting and planning, and it takes some introspection. How do I want to show up as mom? How do I want to show up as entrepreneur? How do I want to serve in this business? And it's all relative to how you want to live. It's all relative to how you want to be, how you want to feel. What kind of peace do you want? And if you're not intentionally planning to have peace, then you won't have peace. You'll have struggle. If you're not intentionally planning to build a business without burnout, then you're going to be burnt out. So the type of business that I would say you should build as a mom is one without burnout, one that has systems in place that so you can go to the park and you're still making money. You're making money while you sleep. You're making money while you're at Disneyland. You're making money while you're at the beach or on summer vacation because you've built in the system. So one, your business is working without you 24/7, and you're also you've got some funnels in place where there's a nurture and a sell sequence, and they're maybe being nurtured and sold to via email, paid ads, social media, organic traffic, that kind of thing, and shared audiences, right? Collabs and things like that, guest blogging, guest interviews on other people's platforms, on other people's stages. That's how you can kind of, this is part of what I call the leverage factor. And there's a way that in the beginning, as you're putting in a lot of the time, the intellectual capital into your business, there is also a lot of like the structure and the frameworking of your business and how it's going to run and operate. And then as that's requiring more of your time, eventually it won't, right? Because you're going to build with intention. You're going to build with your purpose in mind. You're going to build with what you want to have this business do and how you want it to support and sustain you. All of that's going to factor in to how you ultimately build your business, right? That takes some introspection and takes some time to journal, get it down on paper. What do you see for yourself? Um, I know some moms who, especially during maternity leave, I should say, that postpartum period, that fourth trimester, they don't want to work at all. And I commend them for that. Some moms still, they get really creative ideas. And while they're just sitting there nursing or, rocking their baby to nap, then some ideas are brewing because one, you want to protect and provide for your family. And so this idea of like, how am I going to do that comes and starts to um, filter through your thoughts and the way you live, your actions, right? The actions that you take. It starts to feel like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for my kids? Um, and this is outside of if you're going back to a corporate environment. Obviously, if you have a job you're getting back to and it's a maternity leave situation and you've got a job, then maybe this isn't what you're thinking about. Or maybe it is. I know a lot of moms who are on maternity leave from a corporate environment and they are, still wanting to build a side hustle, a side business. And hopefully that one day makes enough money to where they can quit their job and be home more. And then you've got the stay-at-home mom who as soon as she has babies, she knows that she's going to be a stay-at-home mom and be at home. And then there's still the creative juices flowing through her that, I want to do something that brings in extra income that supports all the dreams and desires that I have for my kids, like vacations, like trips, right, around the world, and just fun outings, all the tools and supplies that they need for the sports that they go into, and the beach, right, and the right vehicle, the right car that fits your family. There's so much that kind of goes into play here. Um, when you think about, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to support my family? How do I want to live? How do I want to be of service in the world? This can all really revolve around your purpose. This can all revolve around what you want and what you believe to be the best for you and yours. I ultimately want to always be flexible, always have freedom to come and go as I please. I've wanted that since I was a little girl. I wanted that, especially as I started to enter the working world and the corporate world, and I saw that I struggle sitting at a desk all day. I struggle like having a boss, somebody to answer to that's not me. I just struggle with it. Not that I can't do it. I definitely can, you know, come under some authority and 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 be a good employee. I am that. I can be that. But I also know I'm a better entrepreneur than employee. So then that's a flip of the switch in terms of identity. Employee versus entrepreneur, two different identities, right? If you want to always kind of be working um, for the dollar, you want to be, um, I don't love trading time for money. I don't love that phrase because I think it pigeonholes a lot of people. But I will say like the paycheck, right? For the hours that you spend, you get a paycheck, a particular dollar amount for your hour, right? Your hour of labor spent. So that I'm detached to and been detached from for a long time. For me, it's like value and intrinsic worth and that kind of thing. Like that is what for me I believe is more true because for the transformation that I offer, right? I think in my pricing, I think I've given up like per hour uh rate cards a long time ago. I can't remember the last per hour rate card. Yeah, I was a freelancer and it was part of like my portability when I was traveling Brazil. So years and years ago, I I haven't put out an hourly rate card in forever. Especially since becoming a full-time coach. Haven't needed it, right? Because there's just the programs that you put out. So if you're going to be a coach and you want to start a coaching business, then there's kind of these programs and you're coaching within a program or within a monthly time frame. So you've got a year, you've got a 6 months, 3 months, whatever your time frame is for your program, people are buying into a program. And so it's not really per hour, right? There's not an hourly rate that you're putting out for people to buy into there. Instead, they're buying the transformation, the results, the promise that you offer inside of this package. And then you just do your best to make sure that you facilitate those results. You help them find the way through what's ever in their way to get to those results. That's what your program does. So if it's know-how on a particular tool, if it's know-how on social media, if it's know-how on um, manifestation, you're a manifestation coach or you're a Reiki master, right? If it's know-how in that regard, and people want to come and learn under you how to do this, then that's your program, right? That's your product, that's your service. If they're coming to just have their energy moved and they don't want to become a Reiki master, then they're just coming to you for the services you offer. So it really does depend on what do you want to do? How do you want to serve? What's your ideal day in the life of you as this operator in your business, this executive in your business, this CEO, because you're founder, right? So you're founder of the business. So you get to really tailor this how you want it to be. And then everybody kind of falls in line. Everybody who comes on board in kind of the team aspect. Everybody who comes on board as part of your team in building your vision really does kind of fall under that umbrella of culture, of values, of vision. And all of that is something that you set. So it really does take you kind of dreaming it up and stepping back and thinking, what do I want to do? And then how does this also serve my family? How does me living like this and serving in this way, the greater good, help my family? For some, like I know Emma Greed is a podcast host. She just put out a book, Start With Yourself, I think. Um, so she just launched a book. Anyway, she talks about how she clocks out at 5 p.m. every day. So she's got her booming business and she clocks out at 5 so that she's giving permission to her employees to also clock out at 5 and go home to their families and have dinner, sit down at the dinner table and eat together. Um, the thing is I also heard something where she doesn't always make it to dinner with her family. And so maybe that's something with like other obligations and commitments that she's kind of putting herself into. And so that's something to reconcile. Like, do I want to be home every night and eat with my kids and sit around the dinner table with my family and have conversation? Or is one day a week I go out and network because I love this particular group and it's great for referrals and I thrive there and I just want, and that camaraderie really um, feeds my business, or something feeds my soul, something I do, Bible study, right? It feeds my soul and I do that. And so I'm not necessarily home with my kids eating, um, or whatever, or they come with me to Bible study. I don't know. I know some churches have like kids ministry and they put the kids in kids ministry and then the adults can go to the Bible study. And then the kids are also in some way, shape, or form having Bible study. So anyway, right? This is all something that you're able to dream up because look at the options, they're endless. The possibilities are limitless. Uh, a mentor of mine said something about sky's not the limit, like the whole world is at your fingertips or something like that. The whole world is, I don't know. I don't remember her exact quote, but it was beautiful. It moved me enough to say, yeah, sky isn't the limit. Like we can go above and beyond and have anything, our wildest imagination, um, come true. Like the biggest dreams, we can have them come true if we have clarity around what it is that we want. This is this is ultimately the big part of manifestation. I say that before manifestation comes mindset. Before you're building anything, you have to first believe it, right? You have to think it into existence because thought becomes things. And so before anything shows up in the physical realm, first it was first a thought. It was in the internal realm. It was something that you bore into existence. And so it's not even mind over matter. It's mind before matter. It's mind before anything shows up in the physical. You first made a mental note. You got clarity around something that you wanted to have. And so imagine if you're doing manifestation work or if you're familiar with manifestation work, imagine that you are practicing manifestation techniques, you're coming into the identity of the end result, who you want to be, right? How does she move? How does she operate? What does she do on a day-to-day basis? Dreaming it up, closing your eyes. I'm sure everyone saw The Secret, that movie, right? Dreaming it up, seeing it, feeling into it, embodying heart, mind, body, soul. You are it. You are in the moment of having all the things that you want. And then what would that version of you tell this version of you right now, today? How would she move forward? What would she do? And having that clarity, that insight into what it is that you want, that is how manifestation begins. So, see how this is all concocted in the mind? It's a construct, it's a mental construct. You putting out into the universe, you saying, this is what I want. And, I make it happen. Make it happen, universe. I'm not going to concern or burden myself with the how. That's where God comes in. That's where the universe makes a way for you and the cosmos align to make it happen. Uh, that is all the how. And the more clear you are in what you want, especially as a mom, everything starts to line up because it's like, okay, well, right now I'm where I should be. I'm where I know I should be, where I want to be with my kids, for instance. I know I'm right now where I want to be on the Clarity Hotline, spending time with you. My son's taken care of, and both of them. and I feel good and great and in the zone, in the flow of clarity. And so this is where I want to be. And now this is repetitious enough to where, yeah, it's a system. It's full on a system that I've got to make the clarity hotlines happen every Thursday, 12 noon Pacific. And this feels good, right? Because so see how the repetition of it helps me facilitate the clarity that I want to help all of you get. The repetition allows me to tap into flow a lot quicker nowadays, right? And it's all also too a result of my daily practices, my daily rituals, the things that I do to make sure that I'm connected to spirit, that I'm connected to my own inner clarity, so that I can be a vessel that brings about your clarity. I can be used in that way, right? My intuition is keen and prime for the moment at hand. That is always going to be what's very important to me in the work that I do. And so think about that, right? So that's a lot of deep work. When I was writing my book years ago, The Declutter Code, when I was writing that book, I had to drop in to like my awareness, what I wanted for this book, and that book just flowed out of me. I was so inspired. Every word of that is just like divinely written. And this is what you want, right? This is, you want to do the deep work. You want to know that, okay, I am doing the work I was born to do. God is moving through me. Um, and it can get that spiritual, that deep, that intense, that on purpose. It can get that way. I think we do, if we're not being intentional, if we're not manifesting with intention, then we can just find ourselves kind of, barely surviving, just, going through the motions of every day and hoping this day is better than yesterday, and kind of putting out some rockets of desire that kind of barely take off because you're not really sure it can happen. You don't think you have what it takes to make it happen. And why you, and who am I, and all the self-doubt that comes in to completely rob you of your dream, and therefore the dream never comes true. It's a dream unfulfilled, and you're deferring that dream for what you believe is the only thing you're worthy of. And maybe the only thing you think you're worthy of is more of the same, more of the struggle, more of the heartache, more of the headache that motherhood can bring. I will say this, like there was a time before I started to get really intentional about my motherhood journey. There was a time when I was very depressed, yes, postpartum depression for sure. Um, but like there was, and just even that, I don't even just want to label postpartum depression. I just want to kind of honor the transition I was going through, the transition of, having my own life, doing my own thing, and then coming under this mantle of motherhood, right? This responsibility, this big, big, big job of raising two kids, and what it did to my psyche, my belief in myself. I doubted myself a lot. I was absolutely miserable, and I didn't know why, because it was just like hormones were just running rampant in me. I missed my kids when they weren't with me. I mean, I guess I still do, but there's like some uh some awarenesses around that. There's some beauty in that. But I was kind of miserable without them and miserable with them, because I just didn't, there were times when it was like, what is happening? Why is motherhood not enjoyable? Now I know what I did to work through that. I know in hindsight what was happening within me. A lot of self-doubt, a lot of transition, a lot of me not getting clear on what I wanted until I did. And then it all evened out. It all smoothed itself out. It all became enjoyable. Motherhood became absolutely incredibly rewarding and enjoyable and fruitful, and by design. I am now, still today, designing my motherhood journey. I'm designing my life as an entrepreneur. I'm designing my life as a person in this world, living my best life. And that is all intentional. I can't say that it does not happen without you designing it. It does not happen without you deliberately dreaming it up and saying, this is what I want. This is what I want, God. These are the desires of my heart. And you said you'd give me the desires of my heart. This is what I want. Um, it's not going to just happen like hoping and wishing that someday things are different. Well, what do you want to be different? Why do you want it to be different? What about it do you want to be different? What is different for you? What does that mean? Can you paint a picture of that? And a lot of times this is scary. It's scary to take on something like doing the work of envisioning what it is that you want, because what it might remind you of is how far from it you are. That is the problem with people who are teaching manifestation and not correcting this vantage point. So the vantage point of, I want to dream up this life, but if all it does is leave you with a lot of doubt and despair and discouragement because you're like, oh, I'll never get there. There is the moment right there of truth. There's the moment of truth. You think you won't ever get there. So you're bogged down by this idea of, how will I ever get there? Who am I to get there? And if you stay in that, instead of rising to the identity of the person who has it already, who never doubts that she's going to get there because she is there. She is there. This is proof. I'm living the life of my dreams. So I'm here. I'm here. There's no doubt about it. Like, this is it. This is what I wanted. Imagine that person in that place giving you the advice of, really, you fill in the blanks. You fill in the blanks of what is that advice? The advice that, the ideal mompreneur would be giving the new mom today, starting out a business, is what? Right. And, but that is really up to you. It's up to you how you want to see it, what you think it should look like. Because I can't build that for you, because my life looks a lot different than your life. Your circumstances look a lot different than my circumstances. My baggage looks a lot different than your baggage. What I want looks a lot different than what you want. Even as similar as some of our dreams are, there's nuance there's details. There's something, the minutia of it is going to be different. We're all different, right? We want different things, and it's going to show up in different ways how we build this life of ours. I'm just saying, especially to you, Jen, who's asking the question, is get intentional about what you want to live, how you want to live, and that will help you design the life and the business that you want. So how you want to live, that will help you design the business that you want to build. I think any mom would want to build a life and a business especially, that lives her time to live her dream life. It leaves her time to live her dream life. It leaves her time to be a present and patient mom. It leaves time to fully engage with her kids when they come home from school. It gives her time to fully be present to what your kids need from you at any time. Not just, if they're homesick, you get to drop everything and play hooky from work and be able to take care of this child. But even beyond that, like, what do weekends look like? What does them coming home and you working on making food and preparing dinner, what does that look like while they're maybe doing homework, working on a project? Are they sitting at the dining table working on a project while you're making a meal in the kitchen, and you guys are in earshot and you're talking and you're engaging and you're helping and you're interested and you're fully engaged with this child and what they're working on, and you're hearing stories about what so and so did in class, and you're you're just, it's a light feeling, right? You're laughing and you're enjoying each other's company, and oh my gosh, so and so said a funny joke today, and you get to hear the joke and be involved in the moment of what your child experienced and how it's important enough to tell their parent. um, that for me is something that I fully surrender to. I'm letting happen and letting become my future with my kids when they're sitting around the dining table and I'm preparing food. And sometimes I want a chef to come in and I want to not be cooking. I want to have the chef be cooking and I want to just sit down and eat with my kids. And so in the meantime, what are we doing? What are we doing together? Maybe I'm at their soccer game, and meanwhile, dinner's being prepared at home. A gourmet five-star meal is being prepared at home. And so when we all come home, we're coming down, or, dad's in the kitchen and he's preparing food. And, you're coming in from being out all day, and then dinner's already cooking. You smell the house is full of the fragrant smell of like a home cooked meal, made with love and all the yummy ingredients everybody loves, and everybody's so excited. They go get washed up, you go sit down and have a meal together as a family. And then how does that extend throughout the rest of the evening into night, and how you go to bed? What do you want to feel as you lay down on your pillow? Right? How safe do you feel inside the walls of your home? How safe do you feel inside of your marriage? How safe do you feel inside of your partnership? If it's not marriage, what is it? What does that look like? The relationships you have inside of your family unit, what does that look like? How does it feel? Who's involved? What is, like step families, in-laws coming to live with you. I mean, who knows, right? I honestly, all of that has happened to somebody. If not all of it, some of it, right? And it's all happening everywhere constantly. I know that, it's very likely that wherever I go, my mom's coming with me because she's got us here in her house right now. And I am going to take her where we go. And so she'll have us with her, right? In her next chapter in life, right? She is helping us kind of build out this new chapter, of our lives, post divorce. And I'm single mom. She's helping me kind of operate as that and get my bearings and orient myself in this new normal that we're building. She's part of that. And I really don't see a future where she's not involved, right? Where she's not that I'm gonna always rely on her for help. I just want her along, right? I want to give her a life that she's not had yet. I want to show her and um, show her things that she wants to see that she's not been able to make happen herself. I want to go on trips with her, and the kids, right? I want to send her on trips alone. If she wants to meet up with girlfriends, then do it. And I'm paying the bill. Like those kinds of things. I just see as part of my future, and it comes effortlessly and easily. And she feels effortless and easy about what she's got going on. And she's not alone. Before we came along, she was in this house alone, and none of us liked it. Living alone as a retired elder, not that she's that old, but just not fun to have your mom living alone. So I definitely like this predicament we're in, and how we're starting to, from this new runway, build what comes next. And so I'm intentional about what comes next. And so that's what I suggest everybody get intentional about what you want to come next and how the business is going to serve what comes next. So get intentional about that, dream it up, write it down on paper, read it to yourself. There's something called auto suggestion where even if you read what you wrote down, like you're dreaming it up, this perfect, beautiful life, you're dreaming it up. Maybe you're reading what you wrote, this ideal day in the life. You read it, you record it, and you're hearing yourself speak to it. And so while you're hearing it, it's not just a vision board that you see and you can like get excited about when you see on your vision board all of these things and you can feel them and embody them. Now you're hearing them, right? You're hearing the day play out, and it's ease and it's flow and it's loving and it's full and it's rich, and you're fully yourself. You're fully showing up as the entrepreneur, as the mom, as the human that you want to be, as the friend, as the daughter, as the wife, as the lover, as the parent, right? You're showing up in all those ways fully, right? Fully, creatively, expressively you. So I encourage you, that's your homework to work on next week. Let me make sure. Am I right on that? I think it is. Yeah. Next week, we're going to dive into a little bit more of the systems and the structures that I put in place. This is something that I'm doing every third Thursday of the month. So every third Clarity Hotline of the month. Yeah. So that's next week. We are diving into more of, I guess, the tactics, the techniques, the practical application of systems and structure and the scaffolding, putting that in place into your mom business so that it feels effortless, and the wealth that comes from it, the legacy that is built from your effort today is like, whoa, a dream come true, right? It's everything in your wildest imagination come true. Okay. That's what we're working on next week. If you want to come into the Zoom room with me and have that private one-on-one discussion where we're kind of working through what might have you stuck, what might have you blocked, what is blocking the clarity of you having this thing, and ultimately of you manifesting this dream life, this dream business, then get into the Zoom room with me. I'll put down below the newsletter link. So sign up for my newsletter. And this is just essentially you coming into my email list and getting all the exclusive scoop. And that's ultimately where I'll put the registration link to sign up for the Zoom room, where we will go in and have kind of this private powwow and be able to work on this stuff. What we're gonna cover next week in the hotline, we're gonna go dive deeper into the Zoom room afterwards. So come into the room with me, and let's work on what you want to build, the dreamiest business, the dreamiest life as a mom, just fulfilling as ever, right? And rich and robust and fulfilling. That's all I can say is it's very possible, and sky is not the limit. We can have everything above and beyond. Anywho, so this will wrap up this Clarity Hotline. I look forward to seeing you next week in the next Clarity Hotline. Like I said, we'll dive into more practical application about system structure and all that stuff into your mom business. And there's just such a depth about this, right? So business is deep. It's not only like business, right? It's not just, oh, okay, here's my offer and you give me money for it. And then, I give it to you. I fulfill on that order, on that purchase. It's more than that. It's very much, how are you showing up, and how is this a complete embodiment of your purpose in the world, of what you want, the meaning of your life, of what you want to create, what you want to have, what you want to build, right? What you want to be part of. It's, once you get into it, it's probably the most fun you'll ever have. So anyway, join me next week. I'll put the links in the description box below. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want to, I would say, yeah, if you just have any questions about getting into the Zoom room or whatever, if you're already on the email list and you're not getting my emails, just make sure you let me know. Because hopefully they're not falling into like your promotions tab. You want to bring me over into the inbox, all that good stuff. You want to make sure that you're not missing out on anything. All of the invites, the free chances to work with me. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Clarity Hotline, 12 noon Pacific every Thursday, right here, Instagram and YouTube. Okay, peace. All right, we got Instagram up and running, and now we're going to close out YouTube. Thank you for being on live with me. If you're watching the replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I said, get onto my email list, get the newsletter, and then also you'll see the invite link to get into that free Zoom room for that exclusive chance to work with me through the blocks. Anything that's got you stuck in that self-doubt that wants to make you believe that struggle is really all that you were built for in this life, let's definitely clear that out. Let's clear that away. Let's clear that up. It doesn't have to be like that. Let's dream up something different for you, and we'll work together on that next week inside the Zoom room. Okay. All right. Peace. See you next week.